That should have been the Indiana Fever's first win. Oh, what a tough loss. Great game. Great game against the Seattle Storm. That was watched by a lot of people, by the way. I don't know what the numbers are, when it comes to WNBA League Pass, but there was a stream going on X that had 200,000 plus viewers for a tight game, down to the wire, super exciting, could have gone either way. Fever had a chance at the end, but really they should have won it before the end if their substitution patterns made any sense. I've tried to give head coach Christie Sides the benefit of the doubt, and I'm not calling for her head or anything like that. I'm not irrational and emotional. I don't fly by the seat of my pants like that. I'm not a ranter. If you're new to me, that's not who I am. And I wanted to give her some credit because she had Aaliyah Boston on the bench for a long stretch. She had her on the bench for a long stretch, and Boston seems like such a great young lady, a nice young woman. But she's been horrible this year. There's no other way to put it. I mean, she shoots the ball from her hip pocket. It's so low, the release point. I feel like every shot gets blocked. And, she moves too slow for the style of play that they need to play, that Clark needs to play. Fagbenle was so much better. And Sides had Fagbenle in there for that stretch where it looked like Indiana was going to win the game, where it was taking control of the game. In fact, Bentley's explosive the way she moves vertically to the basket. Clark was finding her. So I wanted to give Christie Sides credit for that. And let me be clear. It wasn't just Caitlin Clark on the bench in the fourth. It was also NaLyssa Smith, your two best players. And I get what she was trying to do. I do. It's not like it was a crazy thing or thought process. It was, let me steal them a few minutes so that when we're in the final minutes of this game, they're ready to go. And they'll be fully fresh and have their legs and their bounce. That's what she was trying to do. Like, I understood it. Let me steal them a breather. But the game started to get away. And at that point, you got to call timeout. You got to do something to change that because Seattle was able to get the lead and build it up just a little bit to the point where you have to play catch up. And then down the stretch, yeah, you still had a chance, but you would have been ahead. Or at least they wouldn't have been able to build that little cushion that you had to fight back from. Because Smith is a good player. I mean, I think Clark, Smith, Mitchell, Fagbenle with a shooter could do some damage. And the Fever are still a much better team than they were at the beginning of this season, but eventually you have to win games. And, Caitlin Clark was excellent tonight. After she had a slow start shooting the ball, but otherwise, I mean, she's starting to get that bounce. She's starting to hit those step backs. She shook people to get her shot off. The chemistry is there. Again, I think some of her teammates can really play. Smith is big. She's strong. She's coordinated, skilled. Mitchell is clearly a scorer. I think, she's only going to continue to thrive. Fagbenle is a physical presence who moves with force and with speed. They want to play fast. They want to play open, spread the court, move the ball. It's just a shame they lost that game. And also, Boston was back in during that stretch. So I wanted to give Sides credit for, because it takes guts to bench Aaliyah Boston like she did. That's not easy. Let me be clear about that. That's not easy. That was the number one pick last year, rookie of the year, and she sat her down for a long period of time. But when she took Clark and Smith out, she put Boston in, and that run happened. And, again, you could have stolen 90 seconds, something. But you have to realize when it's getting away from you and change course and change direction. And really, let's be real, you got to get them that rest before then. If you're going to sit them down, it can't be midway through the fourth quarter. If you're going to, I understood the thought process, but once it's that close a game, you can't sit Caitlin Clark in the fourth quarter. Not to mention Smith. So I know the Caitlin Clark fans are going to be really, really, really angry today about that. It's a shame because the team is going in the right direction. But you know, Boston also, even in the final tip, it was a weak tip attempt, and I feel bad. I don't want to pile on her. I really don't. Like, I again, she seems lovely, but she just, and I thought it was going to be a great fit. And it's still early in the season and everything, but it appears to me like Fag Benley is a much better fit next to Caitlin Clark. That's the core to me right now. Smith, Clark, Mitchell, Fag Benley. If I'm the coach, that's the core to me. I mean, the good news is, again, they look much better. They're a much more competitive team. Caitlin is starting to flourish. I mean, she's doing everything that we're used to seeing her do. She's bringing that excitement. And she still has everybody talking. You know, I did the video earlier today. You can check out about LeBron coming to her defense. And then Charles Barkley came to her defense a little bit later. But, you know, and you see the interest. Again, like 200,000 plus people watched on that stream. It really picked up once the Mavericks and Wolves game ended, which was a good game also. Wolves got robbed on that over the cylinder play with Karl Anthony Towns. Kyrie Irving, that's an interesting thing too, because his tenure with the Nets, it was so volatile and toxic at the end that he got traded for much less than what his value should be. And he seems to have found peace in Dallas. So I'm happy for him. But that's an aside, a tangent. I think when that game ended, you saw the viewership skyrocketed. People were finding it and were curious. And some of them tuned in and they see Caitlin Clark on the bench in the middle of the fourth quarter. They're probably like, what's going on? What's going on here? And if they're not familiar with the Fever, they wouldn't know. But NaLyssa Smith's sitting right next to her. How? That can't happen. That can't happen. And there's only so many losses that Christie Sides can survive. Only so many losses with the microscope on this team. Now, again, they're much better than they were at the beginning of the season. That is true. Caitlin is playing much better than she did at the beginning of the season. She is flourishing. But it is not showing up in the team results. And that was a very, very winnable game. In fact, I think if those two had been on the floor, they win that game. Clark finished with 21 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. Smith had 16 points. Mitchell had 17 points. Fag Benley, 8 points, 6 rebounds off the bench. That's who you got to ride. That's who you got to go with. And the pressure's on to get a win now. The coach more than anybody.